All right, Daddy. I don't normally do intros, but I got my favorite guy right here with me. You know what
what's
I mean?
going on there?
No, it's all good. It's just for you viewers out there. And for you too. This is what would be called a lifestyle podcast. You see what I'm saying? I talk to a bunch of different people from the sports culture or the sports world because that's where my knowledge comes from, as you know. But I definitely want to talk to other people from different career fields and who took different paths professionally. And so you're an attorney of what I thought was 31 years, but you just told me when we were eating a while ago, you've been in the profession for 37 years.
37 years.
Okay, so
since 1982.
Yeah, so that flight to me is kind of fascinating. And since I know you, I've known you forever, obviously. And you told me that you went to Princeton undergrad, but at first you were this gonna sound crazy, you were gonna settle for going to the University of Oklahoma.
Well, I wasn't gonna settle. That's what I wanted to do.
That's what you wanted. Okay, so your taste changed.
Well, no, my taste didn't change.
All right.
You living in Oklahoma, OU is a big thing.
True that.
Sooner football.
Mm-hmm.
I had a roommate. I had already decided I wanted to go to OU.
Right.
But then I started getting approached by schools from the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Princeton, Columbia, and they wanted me to come and visit both of those schools to see what they had to offer.
Mm-hmm.
I really wasn't interested. I didn't change my mind. My mama changed my mind.
All right.
She knew what Ivy League meant.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea.
Okay.
OU was the best school for me, to me.
Right.
But she said, no, you got to go and visit those places and see what they have to offer because the Ivy League is a big deal. That's can be a life-changing experience for you. I was a little bit rebellious and a little bit disappointed because I didn't really want to.
Right.
But she kept on pushing and encouraging me, and I did. And I went to visit Princeton.
Okay, hold on. Let me jump in right there. Now, obviously, not to date you or anything, but to travel from what is Oklahoma, Midwest or Mid-South, to go all the way up to the East Coast for a visit.
It's
that doesn't sound like
Southwest.
Well, Southwest. To take that type of visit, like that was taken care of by the institution, right?
They paid for all of that.
Okay, cool.
They flew me from Tulsa to New Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
Newark, New Jersey, and then they picked me up at the airport, drove back to Princeton.
Mm.
And as a matter of fact, Reuben Gant and I both had that opportunity.
Uncle Reuben.
Yep. And Worthy, and we all went up there.
All three of y'all went up there?
Yeah, we went up there. Worthy Johnson.
Uncle Worthy.
And we visited and got there and it was snowing, cold as the Dickens. And we got up there and visited the campus and had a good time.
Right on.
They, we was the athletes and they showed us around. And when I came back,
did that visit have any athletic undertones? Because all three of y'all were football players.
You were football players
right?
at Booker T.
And so, ironically, all three of y'all are going up there. Was football related at all?
Yeah, because when Princeton came, they had gotten some interest in us because of our football team. Because we were all members of the first 3 state championship teams in the modern football era.
Okay.
67, 68, and 69, Booker T won state championship in big school football in Oklahoma.
Right.
And we were part of those teams.
Mm-hmm.
And the knowledge got out around the country about how good we were.
True.
So schools were coming in to see our team play. And they wanted to obviously know if you had the academic ability to go to those schools. And they checked all of us, and we did. So they flew us up there to see what the school was about.
Yeah. Man, all three of y'all together.
All three of us together.
Was it a culture shock of any kind whenever y'all first touched down and got off the plane? It was like, whoa.
It was a weather shock because it was so cold and snowy.
So y'all went during the winter, I'm guessing, or was it the
during
fall?
The winter.
All right.
During the winter, yeah.
So
yeah.
how was the visit overall, though?
The visit overall was good. We had a great time. We went to parties while we were there and got to meet some of the females and football guys, and it was a good experience. Got to see some of the campus and It was a good experience. It was a good visit. Came back home, and I had a different attitude about going to Princeton at that point.
Right.
But Mama was still pushing,
Mm-hmm.
still pushing. And of the three of us, I was the only one that decided to go to Princeton. Um, Worthy and Ruben both went to OSU, played football.
I did not know that about those two.
They did.
I did not know that.
I went back. I decided to go to Princeton, but they didn't have football scholarships. They had academic scholarships, and you could elect to play sports if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I elected not to play sports and just go to school.
Right.
So that's what I did. And I went up there and started school in 1970. August of 1970, went up there for the orientation for freshmen, and then started school in September.
What made you want to, I guess, veer away from sports at that time? You know what I mean? Were you burnt out, or did you just say, hey, I want to focus on this academic?
I wanted to focus
experience?
on academics, and I knew that my future wasn't going to be in sports. I was a good high school football player, but that wasn't in my mind, in my future, as
True.
far as any kind of a career.
Right.
Ruben and Worthy were big guys.
Uh-huh.
I was a smaller guy and playing a guard. And in those days, you know, for a guard, I was a good size, but I wasn't a college size guard.
True that.
So I decided I'm guard and center. So I decided that I would just switch my focus to going to school and getting me an education and going that route.
Conscious move. Well, did you miss it at all?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
I did. I thought about it the first year, but after the first year, I didn't anymore.
Yeah.
I could watch football, didn't bother me.
Right. Just as a fan, huh?
Just as a fan, yeah.
You know, we tell we tell kids now, and when I say we, I'm lumping you in that too. But me as an educator and coach now, I catch myself telling them, hey, how vital it is to figure out what you want to do. But the fact of the matter is, I learned this through my experiences as well. You never really get too old to reevaluate. You know,
Never.
and I remember in college, a couple of my teammates, they would change their major, or they'd be like undeclared at that point. But eventually they'd figure it out. And even like my brother, your baby boy, he changed his route like halfway through and ended up starting the whole plight over. So what I'm building up to ask is, like, did you always know that you wanted to get into law, or was there ever anything else?
From the time I was 15, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, or I thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
When I went to undergraduate school, I majored in political science.
All right.
Princeton they didn't have a law school there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was futuristic for me, the idea of going to law school. But they had degrees like politics, philosophy, psychology, the kind of academic degrees that just prepare you to go on to professional schools.
True.
Because a lot of the guys that I went to school with, my roommates, my good friends, like all of us, went to law school after we got out of Princeton.
Right.
Because you can't do very much with a political science degree, a psychology degree, a philosophy degree, but go
all
on
the
and get
P's.
some more education.
True.
To prepare you to really have a career. So that's what most of us did. Princeton was kind of a school for the more wealthy kids before black kids started going there.
True that.
And parents had money, and they could go to school and get that basic kind of degree, because all of them were going on to some kind of professional or advanced degree program,
right,
and have a career. And we did the same thing.
Man. And you went to TU Law School. University of Tulsa. But before we go to that, from let's say from a personal standpoint, talk about some of the lifestyle differences from living in New Jersey, right, versus living in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, first of all, it's a lot more expensive to live there than to live here.
No kidding. So I've been told. I've never been.
My first apartment when I got out of Princeton, I lived in a studio apartment in Newark, downtown Newark, and my rent was $500 a month for a studio apartment.
No bedroom.
No bedroom, just one big room, a bathroom, kitchen, living room, everything is consolidated.
Right.
And I was just aghast because I knew if I had come back to Tulsa and spent $500 for an apartment, I'd have had a palatial layout.
Yeah, it'd have been
But
plush.
Oh, it'd have been plush. But up there, I'm just barely existing.
Right.
It's more expensive. It's colder. It's not quite as clean as it is in Tulsa.
Mm.
Obviously, the people have different kind of accent than we do. We, from this area, we call refrigerator, we call them icebox.
True that.
And I would say icebox to my friends up there, and they would look at me like I was crazy.
What's an icebox?
What's an icebox? Because they used to goof on me about that.
Yeah.
You know, and there were a lot of those kind of colloquialisms that I used that were from here.
Yeah.
That they knew nothing about up there.
Right. I bet you they started picking up on some of that though after a while.
They did.
You
and
probably adopted some of
they
theirs.
would try to make me, feel embarrassed because I did that. But I was proud of where I was from.
Yeah.
So I never would back down from that.
Right. You didn't capitulate.
I did not. I stuck to my gun.
That's good stuff. And you know another one of those colloquialisms. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like soda and pop.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? I grew up pop.
Pop. They say soda.
That's right. And see now, I guess I call myself trying to be, multifaceted. So I use both of those terms.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? About equally as much. And everybody seems to get it, but man, it's crazy how that goes.
Yeah. And they used to say water, and I say water.
Yeah. Yeah, and they probably, what's that?
Yeah.
Water. Did your parents ever get to come up there to check you out?
They came up when I graduated. That was
Okay.
the only time.
Only time they made it?
Until then, I was the only one from here that went up there, the only one from the family that went up there.
Yeah.
And then when I graduated, of course, they came up for graduation.
How proud were they?
Oh, very. In 1974.
Yeah.
A long time ago. Yeah.
You did it. You did. Let me see if I'm doing the math right. Because you were born in 52, right?
Yeah.
And I know I just dated you. And you said you graduated college in what year?
1974.
1974. So you're 22. You did 4 straight.
22 years or 4 straight.
You got it done.
Yeah.
How you know what? Nowadays, I graduated in 2011, and I as you know all this, but for the listeners and the viewers, man, I got out in 4 years. That was my goal, but I couldn't do it without 2 summers of going to school. How was the plight any similar or any different then?
They didn't even have summer school at Princeton.
Wow.
You got it during the regular year.
Mm.
And I did. I got it done in the 4 years. School was, when I was going to school was from September to May. Summer was June through August.
Straight up.
Start back up in September to go to school. And then they started changing it, after I got out of school, to where you go to school, you start school in August, and you get out in middle of June, and that kind of stuff. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. You know what? I think the way you just broke it down would be the easiest to remember. It's like to where it doesn't bleed over into other months.
No, it's just even.
Boom.
3 months of summer, 9 months of school.
That's it.
You get roughly the same thing now, but part of it's in the summer that you are going to school, and then and then you start back up before the summer, after the summer is over.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, before the summer is over, in the part of the summer.
Right.
And that's not the way we did it.
Yeah.
A lot cleaner.
A lot cleaner. It's a smooth little break.
Yeah.
How often were you able to come home though? Like for holiday breaks at all?
I came home at the holiday, Christmas, and summer.
Christmas and summer.
Yeah.
Now, you told me some of these stories about traveling across the country, driving. Man.
Well, I didn't drive but that last year.
Oh, okay.
Because I worked at American Airlines in the summer for the years that I was in, when I'd come home in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the perks that I got is they'd fly me back to school for free.
Wow.
Yeah. There was a program that started when I was a senior, when American Airlines was bringing high school students with good academic backgrounds in to work for them.
Right.
And I worked baggage claim, and I did sky capping out there. And at the end of the summer, one of the benefits they gave me is they fly me back to school.
Okay, but what about when every time to come home for the holiday break? You had to hustle that
home, mom and dad had to pay for that.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
You told me something else though. You actually grew up with a very well-known actress You know what I mean?
Alfred Woodard.
By the name of Alfred Woodard, right?
Her name was LaWanda Woodard. We used to call her
LaWanda Woodard.
Alfred. Yeah.
LaWanda Woodard. And for those of y'all who don't know who that is, that would be Sanaa Lathan's mother on Love and Basketball. You know what I mean? Good friend of yours. How far back do y'all go?
We go all the way back to like junior high school.
Straight up.
Yeah.
So she's from Tulsa.
From Tulsa.
Wow.
For those who have been here a long time, ECD Bunch that was out there on
ECDC
Apache.
Bunch. Yeah.
She lived right across the street on that corner of Apache and whatever that street is that runs north and south on the west side of Bunch Elementary School. That's what it was when we were growing up.
Now that's super close to Anderson Elementary.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's still Anderson now.
Anderson was a junior high, middle school now, but that's where I went to junior high school, and Marion Anderson Junior High School.
Right.
It was Anderson and Carver. We were the big football rivals in middle school or junior high school in my day.
Yeah.
Alfred and them lived right there on that corner.
Man. And so you tell me that wouldn't y'all travel on the way back from school whenever y'all going to y'all?
My senior year, Dad and Mom got a new car. They got a Lincoln.
Okay.
And they had an executive Pontiac that they gave to me.
Handed you on down.
As a pre-graduation gift, they gave it to me. And I was able to drive it back to school.
Right.
And me and Bootsy.
That's what y'all used to call him?
We used to call her Bootsy.
Bootsy.
We drove back to the East Coast together.
Yeah.
So I drove her all the way to Boston because she went to BU, dropped her off, and then I drove back to Princeton, where obviously I was going to school.
I'm gonna tell you something, man. A super scary thought to me. Even not so much now because I got more perspective. But back then, compared to all the access we have to things like GPS, right? You can never really get lost. But y'all didn't have any of that back then.
No.
How were you figuring it out? Like,
AAA.
dude, but let me tell you something. Looking at a map is stressful to me now because you got so much going on at one time. And you said AAA?
Yeah, we'd go to AAA because Mom and Dad had AAA service.
Right.
And we'd go to AAA and they'd map out a route for you to travel to go wherever you want to go. And they'd give you what they call triptychs, which was like a cheat sheet that just took you, directly to wherever you want to go. You didn't have to search on the map. It was like a little booklet about that wide, about that tall, and it had multiple sheets. And each one of the sheets would have a map that just straight line to where you want to go. Streets you were on, where you had to turn, all that kind of stuff.
Straight up.
And so we'd go there before you did the trip, get you a triptych from AAA, follow that triptych wherever you wanted to go. Now the problem is once you got into town, if you needed to go and do something and navigate around, you didn't have that GPS to get you around.
But that's a local issue at that point.
That's a local issue at that point, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you told me something one time because, and then we're going to jump into this too because we come from two different eras. And I remember you told me one of the routes that you were traveling, I don't know if you were going to or from, but I think one of the routes was going to take you through Mississippi.
Yeah.
Right?
That's when I was coming back from Florida to go to law school in 1979. And I went to AAA and got a routing triptych to go from Florida, Miami, Florida, back to Tulsa.
Right.
And I was going to be traveling at a time when I was going to be going through Mississippi at night. And the guy at the AAA said, I'm going to route you the northern route, which meant over the top part of the southern states rather than the bottom part. So you don't end up in Mississippi late at night, and have to worry about trying to find a hotel or any of the things that go on there that might not be advantageous to a man of color.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to decode your amazing verbiage right there, you're a black man, and he didn't want to send you through the state of Mississippi.
The deep south.
Yeah, the deep south, the state of Mississippi.
Back in that day.
Man, I always wanted to ask you this though too, because you got a unique perspective on things like race and prejudice and all of that. And one thing you and mom, y'all never really allowed, me and Nate to lean on that anytime that we ran into some challenges in the world. And what's also interesting is I'm 31 and I have yet to experience like an instance of overt racism. You know what I mean? And I know I'd be a fool to say that it doesn't exist, because people still harbor these feelings, but it's frowned upon and it's illegal to be outward with those things. In your time, have you ever been in a situation, the victim of a circumstance where it was just, you knew eventually, right there immediately, okay, this is got to be some racism or some prejudice. You know what I'm saying? Where you just felt it.
Nothing just overtly bad.
Right.
Because when we were growing up, Tulsa was divided into North and South.
All right.
And you've probably heard of Black Wall Street.
Absolutely.
We had our own economic system in North Tulsa.
Right.
Our own supermarkets, our own, stores to buy your clothes, anything you need for your lawn and any of that kind of stuff. You could get it all in North Tulsa. Greenwood was the primary place that we would go to do all of our shopping and buy the things that we needed. There were some other pockets of places that had businesses, but that was the main drag. And we were sheltered from a lot of the racism because we weren't going to where you would experience it, because we lived in our community.
Right.
We didn't even know, I was telling some people, we didn't even know that we were poor. We thought we were doing fine.
Yeah.
Had a place to live and had 3 meals a day, had clothes, went to decent school. But one day we were in school and they were talking about insurance redlining. And redlining is areas of a community that insurance companies won't write policies to secure people for whatever the reason, whether it be auto insurance, homeowners insurance, whatever.
Uh-huh.
They wouldn't insure you in those areas. Well, there was an article in the paper about low-income, more impoverished areas that insurance companies would not insure. And we looked at that article, and we were in that area that they wouldn't insure. And that's when I realized that we were supposedly living in poverty.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you had to almost do some research just to figure out.
We didn't know we were poor. We thought we were doing fine.
Man, and you told me that before, but did anything change in your mentality from that moment? Like,
No.
once you
No. It just
you really didn't buy into it. It was like,
it
all
was
right,
just something that I just noted,
Right.
because we never knew. We always had, for us, we always had a place to stay. We had food to eat.
Mm-hmm.
We had clothes on our back. We had people there to support us, mom and dad, grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
Because our first house, I tell people all the time, I said we came from essentially nothing, because we lived in a house. The address was 1315 and a half North Kenosha.
And a half.
Which was like 3-4 blocks off Greenwood, going back to the east. Doesn't exist anymore because urban renewal came over there and wiped out all that area.
Right.
But we lived in a situation where our front yard was the neighbor in front of our house backyard. That was my granddaddy. He had 2 houses that in his backyard. He had a big backyard, and his house was the first house. He had another house which was 1315 and a half, and then another house behind that one that was 1315 and a quarter.
Wow.
That he leased out.
Okay.
That was one of his ways of making money.
For sure.
But until Mama, his daughter, and my daddy got on their feet, they lived in that first rent house right behind his house. And that was 1315 and a half.
So that was your first house.
That was our first home.
And so your front yard was somebody's backyard, but also your backyard
was the front yard to 1315 and a quarter. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. I never knew that either, man.
Yeah.
That's all right. And we were talking a little while ago before we turned these mics and cameras on, and you were talking about how happy y'all were. You can remember the first night that y'all stayed in the new house after y'all got out of 1315
Mom
and a half.
and Dad built a house out off of 32nd and North Lewis.
Yeah.
On 3236 North Zunis.
Zunis.
And we moved in back in 1959.
Yeah.
And it was a new house. They had built it. My dad and Elihu Latimer, who was one of his good friends, his girl that's my contemporary, Patrice Latimer. She's a lawyer now, and she works out and lives in the D.C. area. Right. She comes back to town from time to time. Her dad was one of the Latimer's barbecue people.
Yeah,
And
definitely
he
remember
and my
Latimer's
dad
barbecue.
were good friends.
Okay.
And they were one of the first people to go out in that area and build a home.
Mm.
And then once they got their house built, they would help other people build their houses. And Elihu, which was Teresa's daddy's name, helped my daddy get things set up to build our home, which was right around the corner from their home.
Mm.
And it took them several years. In fact, we were going out there working on the weekend, after school, until we got it built. And when we moved in, that was one of the happiest days that I've had in my life.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, had our own bedroom, nice big house, den,
Right.
living room, nice place, big yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still out there too.
Yep. Still out
Big
there.
yard.
Yep.
And see, whenever I came along, when that was Papa and Granny's house.
That was Papa and Granny's house. That's right.
And big old backyard. It's gated, and so we'd be out there running around having a good old time.
Yep.
Man, that's super cool.
But
Good.
it was still in the supposedly impoverished area.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
Impoverished.
It was still inside the red line.
Man, inside the red line. So
Yeah.
so now that inside the red line, that takes on a new meaning.
Yeah.
And so now, because we joke all the time, like, man, they must be inside the red line.
Yeah.
We're going to go there. Now, I'm gonna jump back. I always jump around. That's what I do. And I don't even have no notes because I'm talking to my man right here. But you, upon graduating, right, undergrad, that is, from Princeton, you moved to Miami, Florida, right?
No, the first thing I did was went to Newark.
Okay.
I went to Newark right after I graduated in 74. And I worked in Newark for 2 years to 1976. 1976, I moved to Miami, Florida, and went there and stayed there for about 3 years. So I took like a 5-year hiatus between graduating from Princeton and starting law school in TU in 1979.
What was that all about? Was it like a finding yourself type of phase, or were you burned out on school or something?
No, I told myself that, but I had a little old girlfriend from undergraduate school, my college sweetheart.
Okay.
And I was calling myself tired of school, but I just didn't want to leave her.
Oh.
So
what a man you are.
Yeah, we was living together and hanging out. So
True that.
I stayed up there and we continued our relationship. And as a matter of fact, a year after I graduated in 74, the summer of 75, we got married in July. And bad decision.
Gotcha.
Too young.
Right.
And it lasted from July of 75 to Labor Day 76, and we busted up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang. Now, were you advised against that during that time?
Oh, Mama hated it. She wanted me.
She hated it before you even jumped the broom.
Yeah, because she thought I was going to get caught up in life and not go back to law school.
Okay.
Because I was the first one to go to college at all.
Right.
Good and finish. Because she had gone to Dillard. But she dropped out. When she came home, she and Daddy got together, started hanging out.
Life started.
Yeah, life started. They got married, then they had me, and, she never went back.
Yeah.
So she was vicariously living through me about going to college. So she was determined for me to go to college. And she knew I wanted to go to law school, so she was determined I was going to do that. And her plan was I was going to get out of undergraduate school, go straight into law school, and then go to work.
That was her plan for you.
Right. But when I decided I wasn't going straight from undergraduate school to law school, she and I had, we were both Taurus's. She's May 3rd, I'm April 26th, and we clashed.
I did.
And she didn't like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me that I was not going to law school. I was going to get caught up in life and never go back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after we busted up, we broke up in Labor Day of 76.
Right.
I started having to rethink, what I was doing, where I was going with my life. And the guy I was working for at the time, his name was Howard Gary. He was from Miami, Florida.
Okay.
And shortly after we broke up, he got an offer to be the director of the budget department, municipal budget department in the city of Miami, like he was in Newark.
Mm-hmm.
And he took that job.
Okay.
But before he left, he told me, don't make any moves because I'd like to hire you to come with me down here. Me and another guy from Tulsa, name is Emmett Murphy. We both worked for him in Newark.
Okay.
And he brought both of us to Miami to work for him. So my first wife Stephanie and I broke up Labor Day of '76. Christmas of '76, I was in Miami starting to work.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, when you say work, what were you doing? Not now, but before Miami, when you were in Newark.
I was his administrative assistant
Okay.
in the budget department,
Okay.
and
No,
I
that's
was
just-
a budget analyst.
Okay. Sound like you were good with some numbers.
I got good with them. I wasn't before I started,
All right.
but I learned a lot about municipal budgeting
Yeah.
from that experience. And when I left Newark to go to Miami, I did a similar thing, but I was his direct assistant there.
Right.
So I wasn't doing as much budget analysis, like, because each one of us we had a several number of departments that the analysts took care of, helping the people to manage their monies and transferring monies around, that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and helping them to plan their budget for the year, all that kind of stuff. That's what we did in Newark. But once I got to Miami, I did less of that and more support help for the director, the guy who had hired me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it a promotion to some degree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, promotion on paper or monetarily as well?
Monetarily as well.
Yeah.
I mean, because I had more general authority over the department.
Okay.
When I got in Miami, when I was in Newark, I had responsibility as a staff member over departments of the city, but I wasn't working like as any kind of authority over the department that I worked in.
I feel
But
that.
in Miami, I had more general authority.
Yeah. And here we go. Demographically or environmentally, you at a totally different spot.
Different kind of situation.
Yo, how was that?
Warm,
Yeah.
tropical kind of climate. Different kind of more of a diverse community.
True. Melting pot, as they say.
It had more Hispanic folks there.
Mm-hmm.
We had some up in Newark, and there was diversity there too, but it was different kind of diversity, But when I got down to Miami, got a lot of Cuban folks.
Yeah.
And Hispanic culture was real big down there.
Sure.
Good food,
I bet.
different kind of food. Yeah.
Were you one of them when it comes to food? I know you to be one way nowadays. Not one way as in like you're not a picky eater, but you like what you like. You know what I mean? And you don't venture out a whole lot. Like
Pretty standard. But I did some exploring down there because I had never eaten a lot of the food that they had.
Right.
So I was learning.
Okay.
So,
getting cultured.
Yeah, getting cultured. Yeah.
That's
And
right.
they had some good spicy food.
Yeah. I know you like hot stuff.
Oh yeah. Love it.
Miami. So, how was business down in that area? You see what I'm saying? Is it different? Because me, we're in two totally different career fields, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm in education, and I coach basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, game styles and cultures of the game differ from sort of regionally, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Is the business of law the same everywhere?
Well, no, it's not. It's
Okay.
not. It's gonna be different based on where you are.
Okay.
And then every state has its own laws. Now we got some federal laws that just all over the country.
Right. Across the board, the same.
The same laws.
Okay.
But in each individual state, they're gonna have their own laws.
Yeah.
And you have to know the laws of those states. And there are a lot of them are similar because states base their laws off of the first ones to start doing it, and it just kind of travels across the country.
True.
Yeah.
At what point did you say, okay, I've done enough exploring and playtime's over, so to speak? Not to make light of your experience in Miami, but when did you make it in your mind, like, all right, it's time to go back home and do what I told my mother I was going to do, go to law school?
Well, when I was making the decision to move from Newark to Miami, that's when I made that decision.
All right.
Because I said, now is the time for me to decide what I want to do. Because this move will be good for me because I was breaking up from a relationship.
True.
Change of venue helps my head to be clear and not
Right.
be moping and being brooding about the breakup.
Yeah, you're not conflicted.
Right, and then get into a new experience. But I needed to start looking down the line about what I wanted to do with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I wanted all the time to have my law degree by the time I was 30.
Okay.
At that time, I was about 23, about close to 24. I said, well, I can move down here and have a good time, experience that for about 3 years, and then get up and get out of there by 27 and still be on path to have my law degree by 30.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I decided when I left Newark to go to Miami that I was going home by about 27 to start law school. So I went down there and had a ball for 3 years.
Punch the clock
and
on
then
yourself,
about
though.
The last 3 years, about the last year of the 3, I started taking the law school exams to get into law school.
Right.
And came back home to Tulsa. Went to University of Tulsa. Started law school.
You said exams plural. How many did you take, and to which institutions?
Well, you take law school admissions tests for just one, but then you can send your scores around to different schools.
Okay, just kind of see if you get a bite.
Based on what your scores were and how well you did. And I got into University of Miami, OU, OCU, and TU. And most of them were Oklahoma schools because that's where I really wanted to go because I wanted to come home. And I wanted to go to TU more than anything because I wanted to work in Tulsa. Tulsa's a real cliquey town. So I wanted to be in TU because I knew there'd be a good opportunity for me to get hooked up in a job when I got out. Fortunately, I got in, went to law school at TU, and was able to get employed after I got out.
Man, he said after I got out.
Yep.
Did you ever flirt with possibly deviating from your plan in the first place, or did you stay pretty?
No, it was always in my head. Even when I was in Newark and doing that budget stuff, I knew I still wanted to go to law school.
And you wanted to come home to do it.
I wanted to come home to do it. Yeah,
okay.
That was always in my plan.
And I had
but
to
when
ask,
I got with Stephanie, that kind of threw a little bit of a monkey wrench in it.
True.
And I wasn't thinking about it consciously all the time. But when I broke up with her, then that really made me focus that I needed to get back on my plan and do what I plan to do.
Yeah, because I'm learning, as I live on, it's like so much can happen in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And I would consider 3 to 4 years to be a pretty lengthy amount of time, so even more could change. So I guess I gotta salute you for staying locked in on your vision and doing what you said you're gonna do.
I always wanted to have that independence and that flexibility that it seemed like lawyers had. So I was kind of committed to doing that. Yeah.
How brutal was the bar exam?
It was pretty good. It was pretty tough.
It was pretty tough. But you only took it once, right?
Only took it once.
Yeah, man.
But what I did is I dedicated myself to getting prepared for it the first time because I didn't want to get in a situation where you flunk it, and then the first time you take it, it's you and the exam.
Yeah.
And the exam is your focus. But if you flunk it, then you start questioning yourself. And not only you're fighting the test, you're fighting you. So I wanted to make sure that I over-prepared myself so I could pass it that first time and not endure that doubting myself and, being unsure about whether I could do it or not. Because I saw people have that problem.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have it. And fortunately, I was able to get myself ready and pass it on one shot.
You said something a while ago, a couple of hours ago, when we were sitting down eating. You said for a while you didn't like Oklahoma City simply because of, well, not only because of that, but having to come across the state from Tulsa just to take that bar exam and then go back.
Every time I went to Oklahoma City until I went to Reuben Gantt's wedding in 1986,
right,
was always a tension-packed situation.
Right.
Because when we played sports, football and basketball, we were always going over there to compete. It wasn't just going over there just to have fun. So you're going over there nervous. You come back, you may be relaxed because, the game's over and the tension's off. But that experience was always one that had anxiety in it. Taking the bar, same thing. Anxiety going over and really anxiety coming back because, like I was telling you earlier, you say you're not going to talk about it, and we said we're not going to talk about this exam when we finish.
Right.
We're just going to ride back home and wait the results, not stress ourselves by asking each other questions about what our answers were, and then seeing if somebody else put a different answer than you did and thinking, well, maybe mine is wrong, I missed that question.
Right.
We said we were going to do it, but we did it all the way back. And it got to the point that we were silent for the last part of the trip because we had all talked ourselves into negative thinking because we all were feeling like we had not passed, because we had different answers to the exam
Mm.
questions. But in law, you can have different answers and they still be right.
Yeah.
Because it's just that's the way it is. Because you might have a fact pattern that'll have implications about a personal injury situation, but it'll also have contract kind of elements in it.
Mm.
And somebody might analyze the problem from a contract standpoint, and then somebody else might analyze it from a tort standpoint.
Straight up.
And neither one is wrong.
Mm.
And if you do a good analysis of it from either one of those perspectives, you get points.
So it's not an ABC black and white kind of thing.
Not in the essay part of the exam.
Okay.
And then we'd be talking about the essay. Well, it was this question, and what did you say? And then we'd start telling each other what we said. And if you didn't say something along those lines, you'd go, oh my God, I got it wrong. Now, the multi-state, which is a multiple choice test.
Right.
There are particular answers they want. You can't be but one of them right. If it's A, B, C, D, it ain't gonna be A or D. It's gonna be one of them, A, B, C, or D.
Now, did you run into situations where, like, more than one answer looked good?
Yeah.
Man.
But one of the things that the bar prep exam did is focused you on the answers that were most likely to be expected from the examiners.
Okay.
And you'd have people in there, people in law school always like to show their smarts and try to debate with the people that are teaching the class about the rightness or wrongness of an answer that they tell you is the right answer.
Right.
And the people will say, look, we just telling you what the bar examiners are looking for. The answer we give you is the one most likely to get you a correct scoring of that question if you use the answer we give you. Debate that stuff once you pass the exam. But when you're taking this exam, this is the right answer.
Yeah, I'm just telling
you.
Yeah. Well, were you one of those?
No.
You want to know it all kind of guy?
No, I was practical. They said the answer is D, I'm going to go with D. I'll debate it after I get my papers.
Yeah.
Until I got my papers, I didn't want to know debate.
Right. Fair enough. And once you got your papers, who gave you your first break into the profession?
The first break
your first job.
I was a public defender, Tulsa County. A guy named Frank McCarthy.
Okay.
Was the number one assistant in the public defender's office. Pete Silver was the public defender. And Frank hired me as an intern in 1981. Mm. And that's where I started in the public defender's office in about September of 81.
Man, why do public defenders get such a bad rap? Before you answer that, I'm not necessarily here to vouch for them. That's a real question. I don't understand it. Every time I hear somebody speak about a public defender, it's in vain.
I think it's in the mind of the people that are saying it. It's more than the reality. Because the public defenders work hard.
Yeah.
They know a lot about what they're doing because they have so much volume. But people get in their head that if they're not paying for it, it's not as good. That if the government is paying for your service, that lawyer is working with the government against you. And that's not true.
Mm. Well, based on your breakdown, I could see why somebody would be skeptical of that, though.
I can see how they'd be skeptical, but it's not true.
Okay.
Because I know a lot of people that have been public defenders and still are. And they work hard to try to do a good job for those people because their reputation's on the line in terms of their quality as a lawyer. Because those people talk about you.
Yeah.
And if you ain't no good, or if you selling them out, or you act like you're working for the state, all of the people that you end up representing are gonna know about it because people are gonna tell them about it. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants that kind of reputation.
Yeah.
And most people want to do a good job for whoever they're working for.
True.
So a lot of that's just in the minds of the people, and then sometimes these people got unrealistic expectations. I tell people all the time, the best thing you can do when you represent a client is manage the expectations. Sometimes they go in with too high of expectations based on what their circumstances are. Mm. And if you have the wrong expectations, you can't be satisfied on the outcome because you were going in with the wrong expectation in the first place.
Right.
So you have to get that under control from the beginning, what the reality is. They go in and you're going to get this case dismissed. Look, here are the ways you can dismiss the case. And then you go through a process of trying to understand the case to see if that approach is going to work in this particular case.
Right.
And then you eliminate that and you tell them that ain't going to work.
Yeah, this is off the table.
Yeah. And you work through the different options. Say, look, this ain't no home run case. This is what I call a mechanic case. You got to fix it. You got to work something out to get you the best outcome under the circumstances. You're not walking out of here scot-free. I'm just telling you.
Wow.
Okay? Now, I would like to be able to tell you something different, but this is why that's not going to happen. And once they see that you're working on their case, that you understand the case, and that you're trying to be honest with them, most of the time you can get along with them and they'll be satisfied with the outcome.
True.
But if you don't get control of them, you'll never get to that point. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're just unrealistic, period. Right. I've had clients to be unrealistic with me and leave and go and hire somebody else.
Right.
And then the next time they get in trouble, come back to me and say the reason they came back is because I was honest with them.
Yeah.
And what I told them ended up being the outcome that they got with the other place that they went.
Yeah.
But the other person didn't tell them up front that that's the way it's going to be. Mm-hmm. I'd rather them to go somewhere else than stay with me because I lied to them.
Man, the first time, it's business, but it's so much of your personal life and your personal time has gone into preparing to be in this profession and then working to maintain your status and stay in this profession. So, how much of it do you take home with you? Maybe not now because you're a seasoned veteran, but early on, did any case just sit with you?
Yeah, when you're early on, it's hard to turn it off when you get home.
Right.
But you learn that you got to be able to disconnect so that you can have a life and you don't drive yourself crazy worrying about all the cases that you have, because a lot of times you internalize the tensions of the people that you're working for. Mm-hmm. And you got to have some detachment just for your own sanity.
Yeah.
As well as being able to work effectively for them and other clients.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, the first time a client did one of those things, like decided to go seek counsel elsewhere because, you gave them what I would call some medicine. Did your ego take a hit?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you get used to that.
Right.
And you realize it's nothing personal. It's like they're trying to do what they think is best for them, and everybody got a right to do that.
Yeah. Well, I guess on that tip, it's not personal, but it is. It's not personal against you. I guess it's personal in favor of them.
I mean, in terms of the way you see it.
Okay, yeah.
I don't see it like that anymore. I tell them, go talk to so-and-so.
Right.
Go talk to somebody else, see what they tell you.
Yeah.
If you like what they tell you, free world, you can go there.
Right.
Because I would rather them do that than lie to them from my perspective.
Yeah.
About what the outcome of that case is going to be. Somebody else might come up with something different that I didn't think about. Something, do a better job. Because sometimes you just get lucky.
That's what anything,
for example, on the date the case comes up for a hearing or trial, they have witness problems. Mm. They look like they had a great case from the beginning. And they giving you recommendations that are based on what they think the strength of their case is. Not only evidentiary from an evidentiary standpoint, but their witnesses are going to show up, their witnesses are going to testify. They get there, and even though all of those facts, if they put together right with the witnesses being there, will be strong and you'll get convicted. If they don't show up, you in the catbird seat. Mm. And that other lawyer that they went to might be the one that's there when that happens. Mm. So maybe the case gets dismissed. Not because the merits of the case weren't any good, but because the witnesses decided they didn't want to be involved no more. Mm. And that that's a benefit you don't know nothing about.
Right. But that sounds like something that happens quite often.
No, it doesn't happen quite often, but it happens sometimes.
Okay, so you telling me maybe I'm caught up in too much TV. You know what I mean? Where the witness will seem solid, but then when it's time to, it's time for the rubber to meet the road.
The ones that happen more likely than not like that are the ones where you got gang-related situations.
Okay.
Because the witnesses a lot of times are people that live in the community where the gangs exist, and they're fearful
Rightfully
of coming
so.
to testify because they know that they'll be retaliated against by the gang member who's the defendant.
Yeah.
So those are the, and you can see those cases coming though.
Yeah.
Because even you talk to a prosecutor about a recommendation, they say, well, I don't know if these guys are gonna show up because this is a gang related kind of deal and they do self help. And what that means is they're not gonna come up here and ask us to punish this person. They're gonna punish him on the street.
Or what they would call street justice. Huh?
Street justice, that's right.
Man. And you practice criminal, family, and probate, correct?
That's right.
Which one of those? I guess which one of those three cases do you get the most of? Is it definitive like that? Or?
Well, it kind of depends, but you feel better helping somebody when they got a serious criminal matter because you're talking about their freedom.
Okay, now I got to ask you something else. How important is it, or is it important at all for you to know whether this particular person is guilty or not? Irrelevant.
Yeah.
I've never understood that because I guess that's where it gets moral for me, But how do you differentiate?
Your duty is not to be a moralist, but to ensure that this person is represented fairly and justly. The state makes their case, jumps through all the hoops that they have to jump through to prove the case against this person. Whether or not they did it or not is not really the issue in terms of how you defend them.
Right.
You just have to make sure that all of the hoops are jumped through. You can't go in saying, well, he's guilty, I'm not going to work as hard for him, or I'm not going to give him a good defense if there's a possibility of giving him a good defense, even though he might have done it.
Due process.
Yeah. Because, for example, you might have a witness that wants to testify, and it might not be in his best interest to testify because the state wasn't able to make their case. You have no duty to put him up there and have him or her tell a story that's going to get them convicted.
Yeah.
Even though they did it. So you advise them, we're not talking.
Yeah.
We're going to let them see what they can do in terms of putting together the case, making all the elements.
Right.
They don't make the elements of the case, then we get to walk out of here.
Have you ever had a client that went against your counsel on that and said, yo, I'm taking the stand?
Yeah. I've had several of those.
Where it went well and when it went not so well? Have you been on both ends of the spectrum?
Most of the time it doesn't go well.
It doesn't sound like it would.
I had a guy that I represented on a robbery years ago, and a good friend and used to be a prosecutor, now he's a defense lawyer named Fred DeMira, was the prosecutor. And this guy, they had dubbed him a Teflon Don. Because before I represented him, he had gotten charged with a couple of robberies and had gotten away with them.
Right.
And this was like his third or fourth one that I was representing him on.
Straight up.
We were doing really well in the trial. And you can tell when juries are still listening to your case and have made their mind up a lot of times by watching how they're listening to what is being presented. They'll be on the edge of their seat,
real
looking
intently,
and, just trying to figure it out. But when they sit back, they've already figured it out,
It's a little less tense, huh?
Yeah. Well, this guy, he was saying that he had just, he was just giving a guy a ride that was involved in the robbery that he didn't have nothing to do with it.
Right.
And it was down the street from where the robbery took place that he picked the guy up. But when he got stopped, he had one of those CB radios in his car. And it was tuned to the cop station to listen to intelligence about where the cops were and what they were doing in relation to the report of the robbery at this grocery store.
Wow.
And the only thing that could really get him was what he made me do, because nobody had been able to say anything different than what had been testified, because the officer he said he didn't know anything about it. He was just giving this guy a ride, that, he was just innocent of this. This was just a mistake on his part. But because he had that past, they didn't believe him. Okay.
Mm.
Well, we were rocking. They had not been able to put anything on him other than he had given this guy a ride.
True.
Well, there was a police officer who was sick that day. And he forced me, and then she had told the prosecutor she wouldn't be able to be there that day. And I was glad because things were going so well for us. I didn't think that them not having her would be a benefit to us because I didn't really know what she was going to say.
True.
Even though I had subpoenaed her too. Well, he demanded that I tell the judge to make this lady come in off her sick bed to testify.
Your client?
My client. And
what was his reasoning behind that? If you can go into it.
He wanted her to say that the CB radio wasn't on.
Which was a lie, right?
It would have been a lie if she had said it because she didn't testify to that.
True that.
When she came in, I tried to dance around the question and not ask specifically if the radio was on because I had a sneaky feeling that she was going to say something that was going to hurt us. So I danced around the question and she didn't hurt us. Fred Demir got up and asked her one question. He said, officer, was that CB radio on? She said, oh, yeah. She said, what channel was it? It was up on a police radio band. And it was just so noisy and loud, I couldn't hear myself think. I had to turn it off. Well, the jury sat back in their seat. Because they knew that he had it turned to the police station so he could hear what was going on with the cops because he was involved in that robbery. And had he took my advice and not made her testify, we might have walked out of there on his third robbery because they couldn't connect him up. But when she got up there and said that about the radio being on, being turned to the police channel on the radio, on the CB, they knew that he was involved in the crime. Found him guilty.
Goodness gracious. All you had to do was listen to you, huh?
Yeah.
All you had to do was listen.
And when the trial was over, Fred had a smirk on his face, and he looked at it and he said, "You're a good lawyer."
How validating was it then, or is it maybe still now to get that that salute from your peers?
Well, he was telling the guy that. Fred was not telling me that. He was being smart mouth
he was being an ass.
To the defender, because he knew he demanded that I put this witness on.
Okay, so I misunderstood it a little bit.
So Fred was,
so he just gave him that subtle middle finger.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cold, man.
Because he listened to me, we wouldn't have been in that situation.
And you said that was his third robbery.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so he went and sat it down then.
Yeah, he had to go do it. But he might have walked on even the third one if he hadn't been so smart. I thought he was so smart, but he had skated on two other ones, so he thought he knew what was going on.
Yeah, I got this figured out.
And he made the mistake of making that woman come in, and that killed him.
Well, I keep that same question intact though, because I try to liken everything about this conversation to what I deal with in my own personal life. You know what I mean? Because it means something to me whenever my peers, particularly those who have been in this profession for longer than me when it comes to coaching and teaching, anything in the kid business, to sort of say, hey man, you do a good job. I know it seems small or whatever, but that's gratifying to me.
That's a good feeling. When
you know what I'm saying?
That is one of your mentors or somebody that's a more seasoned professional than you are, says that you do a good job.
Yeah. When did you have that early on?
I had it early on. I had it early on when I was a public defender, as a matter of fact.
But did you need it, or did you already feel like you were pretty good at what you do?
You always need that. You know, I mean, you think you're good, but it always is gratifying and ratifying for somebody that is senior to you,
right? That's
been doing it a while, says complimentary things about what you do. So you always get a good feeling from that.
your law partner, the late, Larry Gullickson, who I grew up and knew quite well till I think he passed when I was 11 or 12 years old.
Yeah.
How did that relationship cultivate?
He hired me out of the public defender's office to go
Okay.
over to Frazier.
All right,
Because
cool.
I lasted in the public defender's office for about 9 months.
9 months, not even a year.
Yeah, I did my the the majority of my internship was with the public defender from September to May.
Mm-hmm.
I started work at Frazier after Larry hired me May the 8th of 1982. That was about, what was that? That was May, and I got sworn in 5 months before I became a lawyer. I finished my last 5 months of internship with Frazier, so I was an intern for about 13 months, 14 months.
All right.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
So he hired you.
He hired me, and our relationship, we just hit it off from the beginning, because when I saw him the first time, I was in the preliminary hearing room on the 3rd floor of the courthouse, courtroom 329. That was back in the old days when we used to do preliminary hearings in that room. And Larry Gullickson came up behind me that particular day and asked me to come talk to him. I didn't know who he was or what the deal was. And I went and talked to him after that, and we hit it off right away.
Yeah.
I didn't go that day, but
Soon
the next
thereafter.
week I went to interview with him, because that day when he told me he wanted to, asked me if I'd come talk to him, I looked at him and I said, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And he kind of laughed, because he was a pretty well-known defense lawyer at the time.
He's a big fish.
I just didn't know him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he gave me a card, and I said, well, yeah, I guess, like that. And he was laughing. I didn't know why, but Larry was kind of an arrogant guy, and he was like laughing because I didn't know what a good deal this was. He was getting ready to offer me.
Right.
And I was acting like, who are you? I don't really care.
Yeah, but it wasn't. You weren't thumbing your nose at him on purpose.
I didn't even know him.
Didn't know him. Okay.
Yeah. But when I went back to, he told me, he said, when you get back to your office, just ask some of the people, about me, and you can call me and we'll set up a time. I said, okay. So I went back to the office and talked to him, and they said, man, that's a good law firm. Larry Gullickson is one of the best criminal defense lawyers around. You might want to talk to him. So I called him, set up an appointment, and we hit it off from the beginning.
Straight up.
So
I'm guessing word travels then, huh? Because it sounds to me like, based on the way he approached you initially, that the quote unquote interview that y'all two had was more of a formality.
Yeah, because he already knew from my reputation at that time I was a good intern, and folks said I worked hard and I knew what I was doing, and I would be a good hand, because I hadn't even got my license yet. So he hired me and told me that he wanted to hire me as a lawyer once I passed the bar, but he wanted me to finish my internship with him and then become a lawyer in October and start working with him.
Was there anything to think about, or did you just pretty
Not
much
after I talked to my office, and then once I met him and we hit it off, and it was like, no, it was no. I mean, the majority of the interview, we were talking about professors that we had at TU in common and what they were doing now versus how they were when he was going to school.
How many years ahead of you was he in the profession?
Oh, probably.
I know I got you out here late in the PM, getting the yawns coming through.
8 years or so.
Man. Okay. And that's kind of trippy because y'all are close.
He was like 4 years older than me, but he started law school and got to be a lawyer early in his life.
I hear that.
That's
that's a major thing. And just to show you how small the world is and just the natural evolution of things, his daughter, McLean Gullickson, which is probably my oldest friend. We've known each other because you and him were real tight. Yeah. And I'm 2 months older than she is, so we were babies at the same time.
That's right.
Still got pictures of us, hanging out with y'all in the pool and all of that.
That's right.
She's now an attorney.
That's right.
And you all are in contact quite often, right?
Yeah.
Like
In fact, I
you'll reach
talked
out,
to her just the other day. I think it was Friday, something like that.
man.
She's a public defender now. She used to be
Okay.
in the probation office,
Yeah.
and they offered her a job to become a federal public defender.
Mm-hmm.
And she thought long and hard and decided to do it. And now she practicing law.
What's that feel like to have somebody sort of, I guess you can call your own in a lot of ways, sort of follow maybe not the same path but a similar one into the same profession that you're in? Because I can remember early in my life, before I actually sat down to take time to think about what it is I wanted to do, I would always say, when people ask, what you want to be when you grow up, I just say, I want to be a lawyer, just because, you know, that's what my daddy does. Now, how is it now to have somebody that you saw grow up?
McLean was kind of like she's almost like my daughter.
Yeah.
I've been knowing her all her life.
Yeah, literally.
And then her daddy died so early in her life that he wasn't around to help her to make the connections to get the jobs in law when she first got to the end of her schooling career, where she could intern and do things that would develop her into being a lawyer.
Sure.
And she was trying to reinvent the wheel, and what I mean by that is she didn't want to use her name to try to get any benefits or tell anybody who she was.
I feel that.
And she was she was struggling trying to get jobs and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So she called me and asked me if I could help her. Because she was trying to initially get in the public defender's office in Tulsa County.
She just want to do it on her own, though.
Yeah, and I said, yeah, McLean. And I said, that ain't a problem. I know all them people. So I called the public defender's office and told them who she was. And they hired her on the spot.
Just like that.
Yeah. So she started working in the public defender, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Then she wanted to go to the federal public defender's office. Same thing. She called me. I knew the public defender in federal court.
Right.
And I called Julie and told her, look, Julie, this is Larry Gullison's daughter. She wants to be a public defender, wants to intern there to get some experience. You know, got something for her to do. She said, yeah, I'll hire her. She hired her on the spot without going through a bunch of red tape.
Right.
Because of relationships.
True that.
Know? And then she began to see how, I said, your daddy paid his dues. I said, you ought to be able to benefit from that. But he ain't around now to do what I'm doing for you because he's dead.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
he would have.
He would have.
For sure.
You know, but because, you know, he helped me to get started. Me and him was boys. I helped you.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like my daughter, you know.
Salute.
Yeah. So I feel good that she's in the profession and doing well, and I was able to help her to get started.
I don't even trip on politics like that anymore. You know what I mean? Because I think it's easy for folks to start griping and complaining whenever some things happen that are not in their favor. And it's based on relationships that maybe somebody else has that they don't have. Right. Because you know it's only a matter of time before it works in your favor. Right. You know what I mean? But I guess what I'm learning is everybody needs a rub or a break from somebody.
Yeah.
You know, by somebody, I mean. But if you're not any good at what you do, then once you get your foot in the door, that'll be all you get in the door.
That's right. You just get in, but
sink or swim.
You'll be out.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh man.
But you have to be competent in what you do.
Yeah.
And McLean is competent. She's a very intelligent girl. She's a hard worker. She's got passion.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew she would do a good job, and she's done a good job everywhere she's been.
Right.
And when I talked to her last week, she was talking about she's getting ready to do her first trial, and she's real excited. You know.
Is that an exciting feeling from your experience?
Yeah.
Is it nerve-wracking at all?
Very much so. Because you got somebody else's fate in your hands.
Right.
And in the federal court, in the system she's in, what she's doing felony trial. My first trial was a misdemeanor DUI charge.
Okay.
So even though my guy was exposed, his maximum exposure was 1 year in the county jail. You know, I got him acquitted, so he didn't get nothing. But
stakes were a lot lower.
Stakes were a lot lower. She's got some kind of a child abuse type case that she's going to trial on. That a child sexual abuse case.
Right.
A lot of time. And this guy could end up with a lot of years.
True.
So that's a lot more nerve-wracking because there's so much more exposure. You know, so.
Losing a case. Can you remember the first time you lost a
Yeah,
case?
yeah. I've lost a few of them.
I feel it, but I would imagine that your perspective on it is different now than it was then.
Yeah,
Like, when I guess
it
early in your
is.
career, have you ever lost one, and you felt like you didn't perform well enough to seal the deal?
Yeah,
Okay.
you always have those. You kind of second guess things you did. Wish you hadn't done things a certain way, and you think maybe that was what caused. And those are the ones where you got a close fact case.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up losing, and you think maybe you did something strategically or from a witness standpoint that contributed to your client getting convicted. You
Right.
know, those are the ones that kind of stick with you.
Mm.
Sometimes the evidence is just overwhelming,
Yeah.
and
You don't stand a chance.
and you're just trying to save the guy from or the girl from maximum exposure,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get the best deal you can from with a jury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Price. How do attorneys set their prices, or is there some sort of scale?
Well,
Like,
it
one,
depends.
you know what I mean?
In some cases, some lawyers set fees on an hourly basis. They're charging you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then some lawyers set a global fee.
Okay.
They have a certain amount they charge you for. Like in a criminal felony, you got a preliminary hearing phase and then you got a trial phase. Some lawyers will just charge you a set amount for the preliminary hearing phase and then another set amount for the trial phase.
Mm-hmm.
Some lawyers will charge you a retainer plus hourly charges
Mm-hmm.
on the preliminary phase, and the same kind of deal on the trial phase. It just depends on what you're dealing with. Personal injury cases, you get paid by insurance, so you're getting a percentage of the recovery.
Right.
Okay. Divorce cases, retainer, hourly charge all the time.
Straight up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what made me ask that question. I can remember being. I probably was a little older than a kid, maybe early in my adulthood, like early 20s. I heard you talking to one of your clients on the phone, and I could hear them sort of in the background, kind of frantic because they needed your assistance, but they were needing not to get broke in the process. And I remember you saying this. I remember this like yesterday. You're like, nah. You said, nah, I ain't gonna break your leg. I'd probably charge about $750. And I was like, what? And you know what I'm saying? But then you broke down and told me, you said, well, the standard for this particular amount, I don't even remember what matter it was. You said the standard is $1,500. So I guess comparatively speaking, you cut that right down the middle.
It was somebody I knew doing something, doing a break. Because sometimes you have to do that for people that, because you realize that you can do something with the case.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be as difficult as they think it's going to be. And you know them and you cut them a break.
That's big time. I want to ask you something that's sort of, I guess you could say, controversial. And you could touch it if you want to, and if not, let it pass. In your experiences, maybe not generally speaking, but from your particular experiences, have you learned that certain crimes are synonymous with a certain demographic of people, like a certain group?
I've
you know what I'm saying?
That there's a certain perception that there is certain crime. There are certain crimes associated with certain people.
Okay.
Whether that is the fact or not is arguable.
Yeah. Always hard to determine that.
Yeah. But sometimes you get labeled as more likely to commit a certain kind of crime, but that doesn't mean that that's true.
Have you ever dealt with I guess prejudice in that regard?
Oh yeah.
When you go in there,
when you voir dire a jury, voir dire is meaning seeking the truth.
Okay.
When you are sitting a jury to try a case, you asking questions to try to ferret out, to weed out prejudices that might affect negatively your client and the decision that a jury makes about his or her guilt or innocence. If, for example, you got somebody that is assumed because of their race to be more likely to be a sex offender.
Mm.
You got to be real careful how you void out that jury to get questions out that will let you know whether they bring a certain prejudice to the case based on this kind of person that we're dealing with, which would make them more likely to think that person did it than if they were of another persuasion.
Mm. I guess is the same way in the case of a judge, possibly being.
Well, judges people too.
Yeah.
Same prejudice everybody else have, they have.
Mm.
Just because somebody puts on a robe, or just because somebody has a certain title, or just because somebody's a juror, doesn't cleanse them of the basic prejudices we all bring to the table. That's why the voir dire process is so important, because what you try to do is make people be honest with you about whatever slanted thinking they got that might impact your case in a negative way.
Mm.
So that if they do have those kind of prejudices, you can get them off the jury.
Right.
And try to get a jury that's more fair and balanced to the kind of case you got.
Wow. That sounds dicey though. You know,
calling
out. Yeah.
Because you got jurors that, you got some of them that just want to be on the case. They'll lie to you and won't tell you the truth about what they think because they want to be on this case.
Mm.
And then they'll get on this case with those prejudices that you're trying to weed out and hurt your client. But it's hard to tell that.
Right. So I guess that there's no system that's 100 proof in terms of rectifying such a thing. Human behavior is something else, ain't it?
That's what makes the system, the design, I think, is very good. But what convolutes it is when you start plugging in the actors, the characters, the judges, the lawyers, the jurors. The people.
Mm. So no matter what structure or infrastructure exists, everything's pretty much starts and ends with the honor system. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, what is I ain't gonna even ask that. I'm gonna say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the natural progression or evolution, right, for an attorney would be to eventually become a judge, right?
No.
No?
No. There are a lot more lawyers than there are judges.
Fair enough.
But a lot of people have that in their mind. That's what they want to do.
Mm.
You know, they want to. I mean, you have to be a lawyer first, to be a judge. But a lot of people that are judges weren't necessarily good lawyers,
and
they didn't. Some of them weren't even practicing lawyers. But a lot of times, politics comes in. One of the things that we've been hearing a lot about since Trump has been the president is him picking judges or people to be judges that the American Bar Association rates as unqualified to be a judge.
Ooh.
And he appoints them anyway. Politics.
Wow.
Because they think about issues that are important to him the way he thinks. You know.
Damn.
And so, despite the fact that the American Bar Association will evaluate them and say that these people are not qualified to be judges, he appoints them anyway because of the way they think, which is consistent with the way he thinks.
Yeah.
And he knows that they're going to make rulings that are the way he wants things ruled.
Why haven't you decided to become a judge?
Well, at this point, it's too late. And because I enjoyed defending folks and the flexibility I had of not working for somebody. Because all the trips and stuff that we did when y'all were growing up, I couldn't have done that if I'd been a judge. Because I would have had a daily docket. You know, we'd leave and we'd do 3 or 4 trips a summer. Leave on a Thursday, come back on a Monday. You know, that kind of stuff. You know.
No way you could pull that off as a judge.
No. And then all the things that we did during the year, going to games and whatever, I wouldn't have been able to be as involved and hands-on with y'all if I had done that, because I would have been more married to that judge job. As a private practitioner, I could schedule around it.
Right.
You know, make my money, have my freedom.
Speaking of making money and moving around, I asked you a couple of years ago, I said, hey man, have you thought about retiring? And you said, nah, don't pay enough.
Well, after 2018, when I had those health issues,
Right.
I realized that I don't want to retire.
True that.
I slow down, but not quit,
Okay.
because I like having something to do
Yeah.
every day, getting up, going, doing something. Plus, being able to help folks. Today, I saw two people that I've represented in the past. Don't even remember their names.
Mm.
And this is not the only time it's happened. They said, "Oh, gee, you still doing it?" I said, "Yeah, man, I'm still doing it. Man, you're a benefit to the community. I'm glad you decided to be a lawyer." But that made me feel good.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, this is just me personally, I worry about you more than I do mama about not having nothing to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you and she stays busy for somebody. Even
All
if she
kind
got
of stuff.
she got all kind of stuff going on. Like if I
Yeah.
called her right now, she probably wouldn't answer, and she probably ain't doing that.
Yeah.
But you need to be doing something, man.
Yeah.
You got to be getting up and getting after it.
That's it.
Now, you mentioned something, and I'm gonna turn you loose here in a few minutes, because we could do this all day like we always do. But you talked about being able to move around and chase me and my brother around. We were growing up. And this, maybe a basic.
Chris.
Yeah, one
Wayne.
cousin, Chris Pete, Wayne
Yeah.
Jackson, brother
Yeah.
from another mother. Blood wouldn't make us any closer. Why was it so important to you to be as present and as active in not just our lives personally, but in our endeavors? You see what I'm saying?
I wanted to make things easier for y'all.
Right.
And because of where I was in a position to do that.
True that.
And I wanted to have my mark on y'all.
Right.
I didn't want to just be a weekend dad that sent a check or any of that kind of stuff. I wanted to be with your mama, raise y'all, and see how y'all turned out, and help y'all turn out the way you did.
How did you and mom? Because I'm gonna be honest with you. In 31 years, I've never seen you guys have an argument. Now, of course, I know, just from common knowledge that y'all had your issues, I'm sure, but you never let it be known to me and Nate and anybody else at the house that there were any issues, any cracks in the foundation. Like, how did you guys develop this system that just worked? And I'm gonna tell you something else that's like non-traditional about y'all. It's like, I would consider you to be the one that's most emotionally expressive. And
Mama's different.
Mama's just even keel.
Even keel, yeah.
And I don't look at that as wrong. It's just the way it's always been.
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how in the world did y'all figure this out?
She's more like her mama, and her mama was like that.
Yeah.
You know how grandmother was?
It's cool.
It's just the way our personalities are. I'm more, expressive. I tell you I love you and
All that
kind of stuff, and more than she does.
More than she does.
But she love hard. But she just
sure.
don't talk about it all the time.
That's right.
But she'll come up and hug you, or kiss you, or do something. But she's not as much like that as me.
That's right.
But that's just the way she is.
Yeah.
But I was in my first relationship, we didn't get along real good. We fought a lot. And I learned from that I don't want to be in a marriage with somebody that is not my friend, that we don't get along every day.
True that.
And your mama and me, we dated for 4 years before we got married. And one of the things that was consistent is we got along. We had our differences, but we didn't fight. We didn't curse each other out. We didn't call each other names. We didn't disrespect each other.
Right.
We'd go to our separate corners, calm down.
True that.
Never went to bed mad.
Right.
Wake up the next day, good spirits. And it's just the way our personalities are.
Mm.
Her mom and daddy didn't do a bunch of fighting like that, and they stayed together. And her mom and daddy was till death you do your part. Same thing with my mom and daddy, till death do your part.
Right.
They both broke up when they died.
Mm.
And then I don't want to show y'all that.
True that. That's what I was going to say next.
Kids emulate the behavior they see.
Uh-huh.
If they see their mom and daddy fighting all the time, then that's the kind of thing they'll end up doing in their relationship. I want my kids to see you want to have a friendly, peaceful relationship with your spouse,
right,
your significant other.
True.
And then you try to raise kids, you want to show them the best, you want to put your best foot forward. And your best foot forward ain't fighting and screaming and hollering and cussing at their mother or their father.
Right. y'all both had the model, the prototype in that regard, and that still means a lot to me that I had that with you and mom, because there's a stigma in our communities, that a lot of black folks come from these homes that are divided, where they come from a single parent household. And I don't know the statistics on it, but I do know that those statistics are a little bit skewed, because a lot of times it would say, or it would look as though, or be portrayed as though, a lot of black kids don't have particularly their father present. What may or may not be true. The father may not be with
Living
the mother,
in the house,
living in the home, but the
he's
father
in the
could.
life.
There you go. And
There
it's
you
like,
go.
I just really wish that that narrative was different.
And I know a lot of nuclear setups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know a lot of my friends, husband and wife, got kids.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot of people where the mom and daddy ain't there, that are my color.
That's right.
But I know that there are people out there like that. But I know more and more today, even like if they're not married, they're like you described. The daddy's in the life.
That's right.
Because I got my brother-in-laws, a couple of them.
Mm-hmm.
They got kids that they're not married to the mothers.
True that.
But they got the kids all the time.
All the
They're
time.
there in the kid's life all the time.
The kid loves daddy.
Yeah.
You know what I
The
mean?
mother say, I'm a single mother. He can equally say, I'm a single dad. Because he got the kids all the time.
Yeah.
So just because the mother say, I'm a single mother, don't mean the daddy ain't there.
True.
Because you might have a guy over here saying, I'm a single dad, because he got the babies just as much as she does.
Wowzers. And it's real life, though, because things don't always go according to plan.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that the older I get, too. It's like not everything's going to be what I
Yeah.
would consider the uniform.
Yeah. I prefer the nuclear setup, but that ain't the way it happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And other people have different ideas, and that's fine for them. But if you start out, like you said, with a plan that we're going to be together, we're going to have this family, we're going to do this together as a unit, but you don't make it, that's how a lot of times people end up as single parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because the relationship that they had with the father of their children or the mother that just didn't work.
True that. I think most people, if they could tell you what they wish, they would want it to go according to the plan, right?
Yeah. But and then the other thing too, I think, is because this was my thinking: if something had happened to your mother, and I had just been raising y'all by myself, I don't think I would have got into another relationship, because I wouldn't have wanted to bring the conflict into the relationship of another relationship that would interfere with me relating to y'all in the way I think I needed to.
Simply because we weren't hers.
Right.
I got you. And it'd be one of those disconnects.
Yeah, it could be.
Could be.
It might have worked, but I just would have preferred to just raise you by myself and not have any kind of interference like that to contaminate our relationship or create any difficulty.
Right.
And I think there are parents that make that kind of decision after they get divorced, not to get involved in another relationship, to prefer to raise their kids, to give them their commitment rather than trying to be committed to the kids and another relationship.
Man, I mean, as noble as I think that is, I do think that how can I say that? I think I've seen people get in relationships, right, or get in marriages and get so devoted to somebody else, no matter who the somebody else is, whether it's their spouse or if it's their children, that they forget about their own existence as an individual. And I guess what I'm trying to ask you is there a such thing as you still being able to enjoy life as Ron Daniels and not just as Aaron's dad or as Janet's husband?
Yes. Yes, I do. I got a lot of things I do.
Yeah.
Just me. Because I told you, one of the things, your mama and me, we're different in terms of time.
True that.
She don't care nothing about what time something starts.
I like how you did like slight jab right there.
Well,
man.
you know how she is.
Yeah, man, mama, she can
But
be
I
a
like to
little
be on time for stuff.
Early.
Yeah, so for 37 years we've been together, 33 of it married. We go, she got a car, I got a car.
Straight
if
up.
I decide I want to go and I'm ready to go and she's not, I say, hey, I'll see you there.
And it's understood.
Yeah, that way I'm not angry at her because she making me late. And she not angry at me because I'm making her hurry up and
But
come
you
with
rushing.
me.
Yeah.
We both drive a car. We both got our passes to get in the game. I'll go to the game in my car with my pass, go in, get a seat. When she get there, she get there.
And that's
We
not
bo-
the uniform though, but it works.
We both happy.
I like that.
I'm happy I'm there early.
Yeah.
She happy she didn't have to get there more before she wanted to be.
Easy as pie.
Yeah. Because, I can go and sit and watch games all day long.
Mhm.
She can't do that.
No. It ain't in her. It's on her, but it ain't in her.
Yeah,
like that.
if you playing, Nate's playing,
Or
Wayne,
coaching.
Chris, they playing,
Right.
she's excited. She want to see it. But as soon as that game's over, she ready to go.
She ain't got a dog in the hunt no more.
No dog in the hunt.
You just a junkie when it comes to sports.
Because you
Like
remember
me.
we used to go in them tournaments out of town. She'd be out in the car reading a book when y'all wasn't playing.
Straight up.
Or go to the shopping mall.
Uh-huh.
I'm still in there watching the game.
Uh-huh.
And we do the same thing now. When I go out when the tournament champions or the state tournament start, I'm out there from the morning to the night.
All 3 days.
All 3 days. She'll come out there when a game that she got somebody that she wants to see is playing, and then she leave. So I drive my truck, she drive her car.
And it works.
It works. It works.
Last thing I wanna ask you, or throw this at you, man. This is the way we end all of our podcasts. You know what I mean? It's one of my favorite segments. I call it all due disrespect, right? And now usually I'm lined up across from a former player, you know what I mean, or a coach, somebody that's a competitor, and I would ask them about one of the games that they wish they could get back. Whether they lost to somebody that they feel like shouldn't have beat them or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna switch it around just a little bit for you. Is there a case that you can think back to, right, that you, by your own standard, maybe underperformed, or one that you lost that you feel like you really should have, could have, and would have won, that if you could go back and do another one over, it might be that one?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Guy was charged with 2 counts of sexual child abuse.
Mm.
And it was on his 7-year-old stepdaughter.
Mm.
And I won't say his name.
No, please don't.
But the little girl that changed her story like 8 times. When we tried the case, I charted it. Told the jury all the different changes in the story that she had made. And initially when the case started, the mama separated from the daddy, and she had been working with the state, developing the police, developing the case. But the case hit a dry spot and wasn't moving. She and the daddy got back together, and they moved to Florida with the little girl.
Was she 7 even at this time?
She was 7 at the time that it happened.
Okay.
By this time, she was 9-ish.
Okay.
Something like that.
Cool. Maybe 2 years or so.
Yeah. And she was still young,
True.
know. But Mama didn't have no family in Florida. She got homesick, came back to Tulsa. The police found out she was back in town, and they started back to working on that case again.
Mm-hmm.
Developed the case, got a warrant out for the daddy, stepdaddy,
mm-hmm.
who was in Florida at the time, but he came back here.
Right.
They ended up arresting him on the charge.
Right.
And I thought it was a great case from a defense standpoint. So did the prosecutor. And in these kind of cases, based on the allegations that were made initially, usually it's a jail wreck for a lot of years. But because the little girl had changed the story so many times, and there was so much contradiction in the case, me and the prosecutor thought the case was good from my standpoint.
True that.
And he offered me a recommendation of 5 years in prison and 5 years on probation. So 10 years with a 5-5 split.
5 in, 5 out.
5 in, 5 out.
They offered that to you? Is that what I mean?
He offered that to me. I told my client about it, and he rejected it, and I didn't push it. I said, okay, we'll roll the dice. And I developed a rule from that case. I want my own expert when I'm dealing with these child sexual abuse cases to counteract the evidence that the state is going to present. Because they got a team of professionals that's all they do. Doctors, forensic interviewers, detectives.
Right.
That do this all the time.
That's what they specialize in.
That's they specialize. They come in and they tell these stories just like they're on TV.
Right.
And they're very convincing of what they testify about. And you can't just rely on cross-examining them and trying to poke holes in what they say to beat them. You got to have your own experts to come in and contradict them and tell why they contradict them.
True.
Or it's tough to beat them.
Wow.
Well, we tried this case for 3 days. And thought we had a good shot. The prosecutor thought we did. I thought we did. And when the jury got the case, my typical approach is I don't leave immediately, because right after they get to the case for decision, initially they got a lot of questions they ask the judge about different things in the instructions, and the judge will be calling you from the office. You got to come back and answer those questions.
Right.
And then, go back to the office and then come back again if that happens. So to avoid all that back and forth, I just stay there for the first hour to see if there are going to be any questions. And once they get beyond that point, I'll go on and do something else. I stayed this time, it was about an hour and a half in. And the jury sent out a note. And the note said, can we give a fine to life?
A fine to life?
Can we give a fine along with a life sentence?
I've never heard of that.
Well, that means, can we say you get life plus your fine is this? And that was bad news for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because that 5 and 5 split on a 10 look awful good now, because they sending out a note like that. That means that they thought less of my case than I did. They came out and they gave that dude 2 life sentences.
Wow.
For child sexual abuse on a case that we had an offer on the table of a 10, 5 in, 5 out.
All because you just didn't put up a fight against him, against your client, when he said hell no?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So the moral of that story is, in them child sexual abuse cases, be careful.
Yeah.
Because if I had had as many contradictory statements as that little girl made in that case, in an adult case, we walking.
Yeah.
But when you got a kid and you're trying a kid case like that, every contradiction, inconsistency that the kid makes, we explain it away. Well, you know how kids forget this. You know how kids don't see things the same way every day. It's always some kind of a rationalization or an explanation for why they don't tell the same story.
Mm-hmm.
And there's belief in what they said, even though they've changed the story. So belief in what they originally said.
Right.
And that works against you.
Damn.
And then, I don't care how bad of a parent the jurors might be, when they judging you harder than they would judge themselves.
God, dog.
And that's one I wish I had back. Because 10 would have been, we'd have got a whole, just 10 period.
Yeah, even if it was 10 in.
Yeah.
That beats 2 lives.
Been better than 2 life.
You can live 10 years. You can't live 2 lives.
No, it's done.
Jesus.
And the judge and prosecutor and obviously me, we were all stunned. And normally, when you go to jury trial and you get a verdict back, the judge stacks the cases. So if you got 3 cases and you get a 10 on, you're getting 30. Because it's 10 plus 10 plus 10. If it's a life sentence, it's life plus life. But we were all so surprised. And this is a small deal. But he ran the 2 lives together as opposed to stacking. Not that really made that much difference.
No, it don't. You know,
because in order to get parole, he had to do 38 years.
Man, my stomach dropped just hearing you say 38 years right there.
Yeah.
Man, I can't do it.
But that's one I wish I had back.
Woo. Well, Counselor Ron Daniels,
yes,
I appreciate you sitting down with your son, man. You know, I
enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I definitely had to sit down with the guy I got a lot of my game from. You know what I mean? You're the best man I know, and I love you.
Love you too, son.
Appreciate you, man. Oh, Spoot.